And I'd also like to take you and cover also the R&D development plan. So how has the pandemic affected the innovation development roadmap of your companies? Has it highlighted certain areas that you might have overlooked otherwise? Or maybe you continued as normal with your original plan? Alberto, why don't you start?
Yeah, sure. Okay, well, I think I give you 3 points, 3 ideas that have been really highlighted from the situation. One is, again, since we spoke about logistics, that's definitely an area to look into in terms of innovation. The logistics doesn't mean just operations, doesn't mean only footprint. I mean, of course, we'll have to think if our footprint can be improved to be more effective in a world where transportation may not be taken as for granted as it was before. But on top of that, logistics also means R&D and innovation. So again, on our shrimp business, live shrimps, how can innovation help us to transport live animals for longer time or at a different, for example, a different stage of their development? So that's one area. I think a second area that came out is shelf life of food. So how can we extend the shelf life of what we produce in a way that is healthy and does not damage at all the quality, but how can the shelf life be extended so that even if time are longer or if our customers need to stock up for longer, they can do it safely. And the third area where we are thinking about is more the sales or the technical assistance. Okay, if we feel again that we'll be in a world where we'll be able to travel a bit less and be face-to-face with our customers a bit less and be able to see the premises a bit less, how do we give them the same level of service? And that's where Zoom is great, but for certain experience, maybe it's not enough. So maybe virtual reality is something that could help us.
And you really see farmers in the fish farm working with virtual reality? Zoom for me, it's difficult to imagine. So virtual reality.
Yeah, that's another side of the coin that will have to be weighted. Yeah.
Okay, step by step, I guess. Mun Pew, do you want to share Bayer's R&D plans?
Yeah. So Bayer has for a very long time been an innovation company, as you know, in all business division, and this pandemic has really wakened quite a lot of companies up. And as far as Bayer is concerned, we have taken innovation to a very, very high level. As I mentioned earlier, we invested, just to share with you, China, where even long before the pandemic started, invested on the WeChat forum, in selling things online. And when this thing hit, it was really useful because the farmers then can immediately even do orders, do face-to-face, where we provide agronomic support to the farmers and advise them what to do. So this is something which I would like to really focus. But the bigger question, Sarai, for us is really how can we help the smallholders, which to many of us, we know that for Asia Pacific itself, the food that's produced for us to eat today, almost 80% of it comes from smallholders who operate on less than 2 hectares of land. So, all of them, they are stranded all over Indonesia, Thailand, Philippines, India, So this is what we want to do. Really, our vision is to promote what we call, health for all and hunger for none. And to use innovation and to get public acceptance, the importance of how innovation play a role in bringing, food to people's table. And how can we do a food system that is resilient going forward after this pandemic, and it's really the innovation that comes into our expertise. For example, integrated solution on crop protection, that applies for seeds and traits. How can we bring the best to the farmers where it can increase productivity? That is one point. And also second point, is how can we help the farmers through really, using data transformation today, collect as much data as possible, and using the data, how can they apply simple data that identify even the pests, identify even the wind direction, when they should spray safely and how they can spray. So all these are actually innovations today that Bayer is putting forth to the table. And for a simple solution, we just want to bring this forward and to ensure that smallholder farmers are 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 not denied of it. So but as I would always believe, Bayer cannot do this alone. We can't play this role alone. It has to be successful in having a resilient food system. We need the entire value chain, to tell us the feedback, to ensure that we are not going the wrong track. And in addition, to with value chain partners, we also have to play a part by engaging the various governments to ensure that they understand how this entire system works, and to ensure that they're behind the infrastructure. How can they help? Because at the end of the day, it helps the farmers, the smallholders in particular, and how they benefit, and to be able to bring their children to school, improve on their livelihood. So these are some of the things that Bayer is doing today. We are talking to several partners down the value chain to ensure that we can put together a package, what something like a starter pack, where we can ensure that the smallholders in particular that needs them, get them.
Mun Pew, talking about the small farm holders and the goal that Bayer has to provide more data, do you think this is an achievable plan using precise agriculture tools with small farm holders?
Okay, it's a good question, Sarah. It's not going to be easy because you're talking about data, you're talking about collection. So that's the reason why we will need the governments to come in whatever country they're operating in, to help us achieve this goal, right? Because as I mentioned, will the farmer buy it, for example, a data package, to your question. So you're talking about cost, you're talking especially about partners that can help us. So as I just mentioned, we are talking to partners, we are talking to global, even UN companies, all the Institute of Financial, International Financial Institutes, the IFCs, the like of ADB. So can they come in to help us and ensure that this does not cost the farmer a lot of money, because it is the data that will eventually help them. And we do sincerely believe that you need the digital transformation,
Yeah,
right? Since you asked the question about innovation going forward,
yeah,
and that's
exactly.
how eventually we can able to achieve a sustainable agriculture in all the countries that we operate in.
Yeah. Ilanit, what's Dole take on the R&D development plan internally and maybe externally?
Well, but at the bottom line or the top line would be that we have accelerated our plans with lots of effort because there's a sense of urgency, and maybe I should rephrase that as a sense of emergency. This is the feeling that we have internally. But just to put a bit of a context here, then Dole is a 160 years old company, and Dole has appointed a new CEO about a year and a half ago. Pierluigi Sigismondi, an incredible leader in this industry who has committed himself and us as his partners for this journey to transform the company. And we have strategized, we detailed whatever needs to be done, and then prioritized a few strategic areas. One has to do with nutrition, and the other one has to do with waste. It took us a while to understand that these two areas of nutrition and waste are actually interlinked with each other. So I will explain it in a minute, but we started with, nutrition as a company who is rooted here in Asia. It's a global company, but it's rooted here in Asia. One of the first things I did was to look at nutritional deficiencies across this region. And the numbers are just impossible to believe. And I think this is also echoing what Mun Pew just said. If you look at children under 5 years old, many of them are stunt, and that was a new word for me. What does it mean, a stunt kid? A stunt kid is a kid that doesn't grow. And he doesn't grow because he doesn't have good food. And the numbers are 45% of the kids under 5 in India, and 30% of the kids under 5 in the Philippines, and 10% of the kids under 5 in China are stunned. And they don't have access to nutrition, they don't have access to good food. So this was by itself already something which was a territory which is, we try to think how to solve this issue. And then the COVID-19 outbreak happened, which is essentially a health crisis linked to our food. It started with food. And then you see the link between the health of us, the people, and the health of planet, and the health of the community. So these are interlinked. And to link that also with a piece of news that I saw yesterday, it was a photo of people in Geneva, a long line of people in Geneva, 1,000 people in Geneva, in the richest country on this world, are lining for food, are queuing for food. So we started with our internal analysis, trying to understand the region, trying to understand where we operate, which are our priorities. But then with the outbreak of COVID-19, it's actually, we understood now it's a global problem, and we have it's, every problem, every every crisis is also an opportunity, and this is an opportunity to act, or a call to act in this field of nutrition. And it's not just in this region now, it's a global issue.
So if we're talking about opportunities and sustainability, that leads very well to our next question. Do you think that multinationals should take more responsibility on the agri-food supply chain? If yes, then in what way? And Alberto, maybe we'll start with you, because I know that you guys with the tilapia, you have implemented a sustainability program. I took a look at it. I was very impressed. You convinced me to buy your product. Maybe you can elaborate more, and also maybe on other aspects of sustainability.
Yeah, sure. Well, absolutely. Sustainability for us is the key word. It was at the beginning on the very choice of the areas where we invested. The aquaculture, first of all, we feel is one of the most sustainable way of feed the planet in terms of providing proteins. Quick example, there is this strange word called FCR, but what does it mean? Does it mean in aquaculture, to grow 1 kg of fish or protein, you need about 2 kgs of feed. If you instead, you look at other species, you look at beef, for example, you need about 9 kgs of feed to grow 1 kg of meat. So sustainability in terms of the overall space, sustainability in the species that we choose. Tilapia is mainly a vegetarian fish. It does eat some 5% of animal protein, but mainly vegetarian. That means that it does not hit in the supply chain to be fed on the weakest link, which is animal protein, also for animals. And then is sustainability in the way we raise the animals. We have an integrated sustainability program called We Care that looks at every aspect of our production. So it starts from health. We feed 0 antibiotics to our fish. That means a loss to us because some fish would die more. So that's a fish that you have fed, but you're not able to sell. But it also means that we are not giving to our customers any antibiotic to involuntarily eat with their fish. Sustainability means 0 waste. So if you think when we process a fish and we fillet, what we are using is only 30%. roughly, of the fish. So what do you do with the remaining 70%? I mean, for us, we use 100% of it. So it may go to feed, it may go to some becomes collagen and goes to the pharmaceutical or the beauty industry. It has, I mean, different applications, but nothing is wasted. And then sustainability also means your supply chain. How do you get your ingredients? And we are certified by different organizations to test and prove to ourselves and to our customers that the ingredients, the feed that we give to our animals are sustainably procured. So, I mean, that's definitely an area of where every multinational can challenge itself to operate in a way that is sustainable economically, but also socially, environmentally.
Yeah. Mun Pew, do you want to comment on that, on Bayer's sustainability? You talked about it quite a lot, but maybe share a little bit more.
Yeah, definitely, Sarah. I think sustainability is really a big part of Bayer's vision. And as of last year, we announced what we call the 30-30-100, where we talk about reducing 30% carbon footprint, 30% impact on the environment, and outreaching to 100 million smallholders. So by 2030. So what are we going to do about this today? So especially with this pandemic, it makes it more important for Bayer to speed this up. And it's not all about making profits if the whole industry is not sustainable and the whole system is not sustainable. So we are really trying to speed up, by getting feedback from the field team, going out there as far as Asia Pacific is concerned, going out there to talk to the farmers, to understand from them what is actually bothering them in terms of their livelihoods, and how can we, help them, even, planting of rice, planting of even corn, how can we help them by reducing the carbon footprint? So, in terms of water usage, how do they, do wastewater management? So all these are in the plan. And we have even started this in China, obviously in countries like Europe and US is a big thing, which we have really started, and things like forward farming, Better Life Farming Alliance. So these are some of the programs that Bayer has already rolled out 3 to 5 years ago. And all the objectives, as Alberto mentioned, we have to take a responsibility to the society, and especially to the society where we operate in, and to help the governments in understanding why a sustainable environment is important. So we are working towards that. We are trying to identify partners who are like-minded with Bayer, and to ensure that we address the issue about carbon, we address the issue on impact on the environment, and most importantly, safety aspect to the farmers, as how do they spray, what do they need to wear, and when do they spray, all these are a very complex situation that we're working towards, and we're very confident that Bayer will be able to meet them.
And Mun Pew, you said at the beginning that it's not all about money. Do you think it is an achievable goal if it's not tied the sustainability goals into the economical goals of the company?
It is. That's a reason, Sarai. I mentioned it's not all about money or not all about profit, but about creating a sustainable future for the industry, and that's the reason why we are speeding up with partners. Getting people who thinks alike like Bayer, and especially finance institution, get them involved, to bring the farmers, to bring the cost down, if actually defray the cost, how can they meet? So it will have to be a joint effort, I would say. So that's why from the very beginning, we can't do it alone. Most of the companies like us will not be able to do this alone. Yeah.
Okay. Ilanit?
So in the area of sustainability, which is to focus on waste, on zero waste, this is our mission. But we started with nutrition and waste as two different areas, as two different strategic priorities, and we have arrived to the point that we understand today that these two are interlinked. And just to explain that, 2 billion people can be fed annually with the food and agriculture waste of US only. So this is clearly, we are in a massive waste of resources. So we were trying to understand the waste problem both in the macro level and the micro level. And when in micro level, it's us. What's the waste in our system? And then we mapped the waste across our factories, across all our fruits. So it's pineapples, bananas, mango, papayas, guavas, cantaloupe, watermelon. There's lots of fruits. And we have arrived to the point it's actually similar to what Alberto just said. Roughly 30 to 50% of the fruit itself in the production is lost. And because we don't use the peel, we don't use the seed, and with the way we cut the fruit, we also lose part of the flesh. So that's a lot of waste. So we've been working now in the past few months with many startups, and that's also a call for more startups to join us and to introduce us with different technologies to upcycle waste. And it could be upcycling waste for ingredients, upcycling waste for nutrients. Here's again the link between waste and nutrition. Upcycling waste for packaging, whether it's agriculture waste or food waste, and so on. We're already using waste to energy and other operational usage of waste, but this is most interlinked with how we can use that to create more value with waste. So we're collaborating, searching, as Mun Pew said, this effort, it's an industry effort. This cannot be done just by company. This can be done if we collaborate together. And in the sense, we're looking for more collaborations with external partners, technologies, universities, and startups to work around waste valorization.
So talking about this proactive approach, working with startups, you did a great job, Ilanit, tying to the next question. But I think there's a lot of startups in the audience listening, and they will be interested to learn what's your plans really in engaging with startups. I think it's an easy question for the three of you because all three companies are quite active with startups. Obviously, we have our buyer Fund Innovation with Trendlines, and we invest in seed stage, and buyers also invest in later stage. With Golden Springs, they're also quite active with startups. And Ilanit, you just mentioned you are working with startups. What do you expect from your company to be more engaging in the near future? And what do you think is the obstacle maybe for other multinationals or strategic partners to be less active in engagement with startups and external innovation? Mun Pew, maybe you would start.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks, Sarai. Okay. For Bayer, is really, we have got even built into us this, what we call a giant startup culture. So, we have got this culture in a way that we encourage our junior and younger managers to think out of the box, right? Look at how the few solutions work. That's the reason why when this thing came up, that we should follow exactly what the industry is telling us, what the farmers are telling us, what the distributors are telling us, and think out of the box. And my head of region usually say, okay, let's have this culture, lock some of us in the room and think out of the box and come up with solution. So we are always trying to build that culture in the company, and that's why sometimes, because of this, we are very keen to work with startups. Is it in Singapore? Is it in Thailand? Is it in Indonesia, China? We want to listen to them because you do not know how an idea can bring to fruition, and how it benefits the society, and for us, most important, benefit the farmers. And that's why I mentioned earlier that many years ago we started this WeChat platform in China, where the guys told us, this is the way to go, from how the Chinese, to reach the farmers. This is the way to go, and it benefited the company today. So for us, and I would say you will have to embrace technology. We would have to embrace startup culture. And the only thing, perhaps, you asked a question just now, how would it hinder some companies? So the only way, for me, is that if you're not prepared, if the company is not pushing that culture, it will be difficult. So that's how I see it. Is that right? Yeah.
Ilanit?
Well, definitely there is a value. I think, I mean, the three of us are part of this effort to connect startups within the corporate. So definitely there is a value that we all see there. At Dole, we took a bit maybe an approach which suits for Dole, and it's a bit courageous, I would say, from Dole point of view, and it is to be linked with startups around our core targets or around our core business. This is where we see the biggest value. As we would like to transform ourselves fast, we don't have time. So to shortcut the time and to leverage the level of innovation, we all internally at least agree that this can be done, it should be done with collaboration with startups. Having said that, after being active in this field for quite some time, this is not an easy task. And there's so many challenges, and I would highlight only two of them, and there are many more. And the first challenge is a cultural challenge. Mun Pew just said a bit about this cultural challenge, and it's these are two different mentalities. There's different management procedures, two different structures, two different decision-making procedures. All of that is two different cultures. So there is a way to create this interface, this link, this language, which can overcome this gap. There is a knowledge in this, in how to do this well and how to do this together. But first, there is the acknowledgement that there is two different cultures totally. That's one. And the second challenge is I call it the innovation accounting challenge. And by innovation accounting challenge, I mean that there is a cost that is linked to working with startups. So we don't speak about this much. So if you are not, let's say, 10 billion plus company and your revenues are less, then there is a difficulty in financing this type of collaborations, and I think there is a need, and it's a need in across industry to develop more tailored programs to support in those relationships. So I do see lots of excellent work being done both in Israel and in Israel and in Singapore. The government agencies in both sides are doing excellent work. And I think there's also a need to do a further work in understanding how to link those two type of entities together, and also to create financial value, business impact, social impact, to work around a closer dimension, and to finding ways to support it, because at the end it's very difficult to support it in a sustainable way.
Alberto?
I'm really totally on the same page with Ilanit. There is absolutely great value on startups, great value on startups working with larger companies for the amount of innovation and ideas they can bring to a more structured environment. But as Ilanit said, absolutely can be challenging if it's not done in the right way. The culture of a multinational, if it's not shaped in the way that Mun Pew was saying for Bayer, can be suffocating the innovation that comes from the startup. And Also, there may be different conflicts. There may be different a good idea that is come out of a startup and why it's not been invented inside the company. So there can be different issues. Having said that, there is about for us finding the right way to work with startups. So we have spent the last 6 months thinking and really debating internally on how to do it. We think we have found the right way for us. We'll hoping that we'll be making an announcement in the coming months, but not for today, I'm sorry.
Thank you. So before we move to the questions from the audience, and there are a few, I gave you the heads up, right? So I'm going to ask the three of you 3 questions, and please provide short answers. Okay, so we're going to do it by order: Ilanit, Mun Pew, and then Alberto. So you ready? First question is, what is the key change you think your organization would make in the existing business considering the pandemic?
Commitment, greater commitment for change.
Mun Pew? Your mic is off. We can't hear you. The mic is off.
Sorry. Okay. Okay. Good. Right. Definitely, we'll say if we will have to move faster.
Alberto?
Well, for us, was what we had to do already. So the distance procedures even outside the factory.
Okay. What do you think would be the main impact of the pandemic on our industry for the long run, 3 to 5 years from now, if at all? Ilanit.
Rise in functional food, plant-based food, more focus on regional needs because of the supply chain issues, digitization finally, but I will also add next to that leadership change. I think we will see more change in leadership in this industry, and also public-private collaborations and coalitions for good.
Okay. Mun Pew?
Okay, for me, really, this situation of the pandemic over the next 3 to 5 years, you will see, in the medium term, a big stress on the food system. There will be, without doubt, government will be looking at how, if such thing happen again, how we can do it. So I'm looking at more collaboration, companies will come together, over the next 3 to 5 years to find out what is the best way forward if this hits again the next wave.
Alberto?
I think there will be a push towards deglobalization or decoupling of economies, and also through the supply chain for food. So I think there will be a push towards supply chains that are more regional and less global. And I think there will be a higher requirement for safety procedures that will stay even after the pandemic is gone.
Yeah. So the last question before the Q&A, which area of technology you think is needed for a young startup to be focusing on these days? Ilanit.
Well, I said so much about waste and nutrition again. But apart from that, if you have a startup in this area, you're good to go, let's say. But apart from that, just a good starting point. But apart from that, I would say that there is a need to go beyond generation 1 of technologies in certain areas that we are already there. Areas like vertical farming, functional food, traceability, and many others are just in their phase 1, and they need to go for the second phase in order to be profitable and sustainable and valuable for longer term. So I think that if you look at what's happening in the agri-food tech, then it is definitely an inspiring territory, but we need to look very carefully and see what's going to be next and how to jump to the next level of innovation. And another point is to look at while exploring this next level of innovation and technologies in the agri-food space, also look at deeper at the cultural and social context of the technology, and this linking also to what Mun Pew said before about smallholder farms, which just across the solutions that have been reviewed today, and I agree with you, we don't see for now a solution which is sustainable enough for smallholder farms. So lots to do. It's an inspiring territory, but just go to the next step.
Mun Pew?
Thanks. Yeah, thanks, Sarai. I've completely agree with what Ilanit just said, and it's going to be exciting times. And I think for startup, you will need to embrace technology. Definitely, you know, you need to listen to probably your customers. You need to listen to your distributors as well as customers that will probably be your most important people. And agree. I mean, as far as if you're talking about technology is concerned, you know, you're talking about today. You know, what do people think of most? You and I, essentially safe food, nutrition you're talking about. So whatever it is, you know, you will need to make sure that people are comfortable, people are, you know, accept is public acceptance that this food that someone is growing or someone is selling in the supermarket is safe to eat. So you're talking about safe food, you're talking about, you know, even traceability, you're talking about, you know, all these that will require a high level of technology. So look at this space, you know, probably for me personally, I think this would be the next growth area.
Interesting. Alberto?
I will not give an area, but I give an idea or a recommendation, which is make it meaningful, make it important. Look at customers, look at the end users. There is lots of need of innovation in the space, but end users are very conservative, are very slow and diffident in adopting innovation. So you need to give them something that is really meaningful for their business. Don't go for the 1%, 2%, 3% improvement. Nice, but it's going to stay there. It needs to be important.
Okay. Thank you. So we're going to move to the Q&A, and for that, I'm going to invite my colleague, Keith Law. He's going to manage the Q&A from the audience. Keith, please take it from here.
All right. Hi, guys. We have two interesting questions. I think the first one is about vertical farming, and I think this would be directed to Mun Pew and Alberto. So for Mun Pew, you know, Bayer has been quite well known to be a major player in field-grown crops. How do you think vertical farming fits into your company's outlook for the future?
Okay, thanks, Keith. This is a very, very interesting question. In fact, well, vertical farming has taken really, you know, especially Singapore space by storm. And as far as I remember, was 3 to 4 years where we were asked to look at it. But obviously, you know, for Bayer, we have always been, you know, focused on broad acre, you know, big farming, and not, you know, something that grows upwards, yeah, in car parks and in HDB blocks, yeah. So it is something that we are interested to look at. It's something that we will definitely, you know, be keen to analyze, because what we are doing today, as I mentioned, broad acres crop and planting, is can we also do the same by, you know, collecting data for vertical farming, because it's a completely different ball game together. Whereas, you know, for big field planting, crop planting, we can use drones, right? Which we are applying today in most Asia Pacific countries. But for vertical farming, I don't think we can use a drone to fly in to start collecting data or apply a crop protection solution. So, but hang on there, you know, it is something that we have been now studying and looking together with, I would say, the Singapore Food Agency. So they are talking to us and see, you know, and we have also taken this up at our global headquarters to see how can we, you know, come in to help. I would say so. For now, I leave the question there.
I see. Thanks, Mun Pew. For Alberto, you know, we've seen big farms go indoor for fish farming, you know, with RAS systems. But sometimes the problems that we have with, you know, open ponds or even net pens is who is more right. What's your view on this? Is there more right in such a scenario, or should people work together? What's your view on this particular issue?
I mean, I think, so we're speaking about RAS and indoor system are an interesting area. There is lots of development and investment in the area. I would say is still partially and not fully explored. There are issues as well in the indoor farming. If you have a disease and it's not correctly dealt with, everything is nice as well. And I would say so. It needs to be handled a bit carefully. I see it more for the near future on specialized applications. So yes, for high value species, and yes, for like early stage for your genetic nucleus or for hatcheries. I think it'll take longer for extensive farming to be done indoor. And the profitability of that, I think, is still to be proven.
Yes, I thank you for that. I think that's a good exploration. I think sometimes, as startups, as tech companies, we get caught up in who is more right and the best solution straight away. But I think it's good to also notice that there needs to be a blending of both the more traditional as well as the new, so that we could get there. So this follows on to the next question. How do big corporates sort of align with some of the local wisdoms? With the smallholder farmers, sometimes they feel like, I've done this for 30 years, my way is better. How
Keith, we can't hear you well. Can you
sorry.
repeat the question?
Hi. Okay. How can an MNC
Okay.
work together with some smallholder farmers to really work with them? Because some smallholder farmers feel that they are always right. They have like local wisdom, anecdotal things that they have done. Are there small steps that you can take? How do you connect with such a small farmer?
I suppose I'll take that question.
Yep.
Okay. Okay. Now, it's a very interesting question on smallholders. It's something that we are currently working on. I think the first thing, as you rightly pointed out, they have been working like that since their the great grandfather's time. And to them, the most important thing is to be able to send their children to school, their families, and for us, some of them that we have even seen, have their children in the field, which for us is something not acceptable. The children should be in the school and studying. So it is important to first, show them the technology. As I mentioned earlier, it is not a straightforward effort, and our field teams spend a long time trying to what we so-called do a penetration into this the minds, change their mindset. So first of all, important thing is that if you adopt a new technology, if you adopt a new innovation, if you look at data innovation, data analytics, to smallholders and farmers, the key is visibility. So that's the reason why, Bayer, as like most agriculture companies, we will do trials with them. So if you can show them a neighboring field that, that uses technology, uses data analytics, and then to a field that is completely traditional, right? And all times they will see the difference. So once they see the difference, once they see how even simple data that we collect, can focus on the pests, can focus on what time to spray, which part of the day we spray, so that you do not disturb the neighbor's field next door. They may be doing flowers, with bees there, which you do not want to hurt. So with all this, it's all, give a matter of building the awareness. So once you do that, once they have the visibility, wow, what a difference. And personally, we have done that in Vietnam, in Indonesia, whereby we show the smallholders the difference once you employ technology. And most important is get them to see. I would say then, you will get them to come on board.
See, Thank you. I have one last question for Ilanit. I think a lot of startups were very excited when you said that you guys are looking for startups to work with. So we have received a few questions on what do you think, or well, I think it's a part A, part B. One, what's the best way to connect with MNC as a startup? Who should you look for in an MNC? And second is, how can that idea stand out? What are you looking for specifically in a startup?
Well, for the first part of the question, it's going to take me 2 hours to answer. So that's that's something.
No time.
No time. So let's focus on the second part, which was. Could you remind me?
The second one was really how do they stand out? What's the key thing that you would look for in their technology?
Okay. Well, first it has to do around our strategic priorities, which I shared.
Yep.
Which are them? They should be roughly around post-seed, around A more or less, if they have already a proven proof of concept, and they have maybe 1 client or 2, and we'll be ready also to be the first client. But they gone through a certain way to arrive to this point, and they have to be unique. They have to be very good partners in the ability to discuss, to share, to learn from each other, for us to learn from them, from them to learn from us, and so I would say that's more, and of course it should be accessible when it comes to the cost of the business case. And in many cases we start with just a dream and how wonderful it is, and then we get to the point that we do the business case and it's just not there. So there's like a few items on the checklist: fit to strategy, maturity of the company, to team, and a reasonable, viable business case which we put together.
All right, thank you, Ilanit. All right, Sarai, I hand the time back to you. I think that's all the questions we have.
Yeah, that's all the time we also have. Thank you, Ilanit, Mun Pew, and Alberto for joining us today, sharing your time and your insightful ideas. Let's keep all healthy and safe. Have a great day.